Hey everybody, Tony D and Little Joan. Sorry for that first long video. I'll try to make this one shorter. Um, but that op-ed, man, crazy. But sort of segue in. I know, Joan. You wanna come over here? Come on, you gotta calm down. You gotta calm down. You're supposed to calm down. They said, oh, we're gonna give her a shot. She may be groggy. She may just lie around today. And I was like, oh, good. That'll be nice for a change. Yeah, you don't want to lie down, do you? You don't want to lie down, do you? Just as frisky as ever. Okay. But get... Okay, come over here. Okay, now I can start. This is an article that was linked by James Lindsay on Twitter. Again, I got to get off of Twitter. I'm still sort of on it, but try not to engage with me there. I'm mostly off just promoting and reading a couple of James Lindsay tweets. I wish Gab would work again. I can't seem to get on Gab right now. But anywho, they were relentless. How I learned respect for a communist media. And basically, this is a guy by the name of Mark Judge, who is a writer. And he talks about dealing with, like they said, the communist media. Some of the best advice for dealing with the media, he says, can be found in He Leadeth Me, a 1973 book by American Jesuit Father Walter J. Cizek. Father Cizek was captured by the Russian army during World War II. They accused and convicted him of being a Vatican spy. He would spend 23 years in a Soviet prison. Oof, and labor camps of Siberia. Wow. And he survived, I assume. In one key passage, Cizek describes how dismissive contempt for his captors and the absurdity of the charge against him vanished. In a moment, they turned to cold realism when he realized what he was dealing with. The Russians were not about to stop asking him the same questions over and over again for days on end. They were not going to listen to facts or reason. Quote, they were relentless and they were thorough and they were good at their trade, Cizek notes. Respect thy enemy. This kind of appreciation for the skill of your enemy is essential to dealing with atheist materialists, whether in the old Soviet Union or in the modern media. Sure, the press is filled with people who are incompetent and make unbelievable mistakes. You and I might consider the MSM something of a joke, but don't be fooled. In the midst of the mediocrities, you'll also find experts and fanatics. You'll meet people schooled in opposition research, psychological warfare, and emotional manipulation. That last one, there's a lot of people who are good at that, I'll tell you. You don't have to like these facts. In fact, you shouldn't. But you must respect reality. The reporter who has just called you with a list of personal questions might be a goofball or a trained and skilled interrogator. Assume, to be on the safe side, that he's very likely a deeply damaged, ideologically obsessed, and angry human being. One who cares nothing about you, fairness, or even your life. Just like the Russians who tortured Father Cizek. Yeah. And this is sort of coming into focus for me because one of the things I experienced over the years was journalists who just wouldn't get basic facts correct, and it drove me absolutely insane. I think I've told this story before. When I was promoting the Jersey Devil and getting, local guy does good sort of articles, they would always mention my age and that I lived with my parents. And I was like, after 2 or 3 times this happened, I kept saying, why does this keep happening? Why do they even care that I'm living with my parents? So I told one reporter specifically, having an interview with her, can you please not mention my age and that I lived with my parents? Not only did she do it, it was the first sentence of the article. It was like we never had a conversation. And I didn't understand why she would do that. I called her and she didn't answer. And here's why. Continuing, the story was written before they even contacted you. Bingo. Bango. Crystal clear. Every person who comes into the media's crosshairs should understand this. Nothing you say or do is going to change the story they are going to write. Indeed, the story was written before they even contacted you. They will falsify quotes and leave out facts. They often have reams of opposition research, ugly tales about you, at the ready. If so, they will slowly dole it out and set up and trick a naive subject. Bingo. I don't want to read the whole thing because I'm trying to make this shorter. So he tells a story of when Ronan Farrow called him up to discuss Brett Kavanaugh, because it just so happens he grew up with Brett Kavanaugh, and he was one of the guys that they were calling and hounding during his, I don't know what you'd call it, interrogation, torture, mental torture, and, you know, he basically called. Here, I'll read the thing. In September 14th, 2018, I was at home when I got a call from Ronan Farrow of The New Yorker. My high school friend Brett Kavanaugh had been nominated for Supreme Court on July 9th. Now, 2 months later, Farrow was calling me that Brett and I had been named in a letter claiming, quote, sexual misconduct in the 1980s. At the time of Farrow's call, the accuser had not been named. She turned out to be Christine Blasey Ford, a college professor in California. Ford's charge would upend the Kavanaugh nomination and roil the nation. I told Farrow I had no idea what he was talking about and asked him if he could be more specific than, quote, sexual misconduct in the 1980s. He couldn't. The only accurate description of what happened that night was by Ala Pundit, a popular blogger on the site Hot Air. From the blogger, Judge apparently found out he was named in the letter when Ronan Farrow called to ask about it. Farrow offered no details about when the incident supposedly happened or where, or even the name of the woman. Judge has been accused of participating in an attempted rape with a would-be Supreme Court justice. In other words, and can't even get the basic facts of the allegation provided to him. It's Kafkaesque, and it raises another question. If Democrats knew all along that Judge was the second man, and they're talking about this seriously, why is he only hearing about it now from Farrow? Why not in July from Feinstein's office or Rep. Anna Eshoo's office? She was the first person contacted about the charge, remember? So basically, he wouldn't play along. And he gave one interview to the New York Times, lengthily pointing out he simply had no recollection of what Ford was talking about. I told him that Brett Kavanaugh I knew in high school was a good friend and a decent guy. He was interested in sports. Even the one interview may not have been advisable. I know. That 3 a.m. knock at the door. So he left Washington and hid out at a friend's house, and they tracked him down. And one night at 3 a.m., someone knocked on the door, and they were looking. And the article ends with, I didn't answer, of course. Respecting that awesome power of diabolical ability of those lined up against me meant facing reality with a clarity that would help me survive. Like Sezek, I understood that I was dealing with a highly skilled sociopath, men unencumbered by consciousness. So yeah, Mark Judge is a writer and filmmaker in Washington, D.C. And that's an interesting perspective from the Kavanaugh thing. And this is from Zero Hedge. A message to anyone who feels like Winston from Orwell's 1984. And if you haven't read 1984, you really should. Quoting 1984, the ideal set up by the party was something huge, terrible, and glittering, all thinking the same thoughts and shouting the same slogans, perpetually working, fighting, triumphing, persecuting, 300 million people, all with the same face. That was a quote from George Orwell's seminal work, 1984, a masterpiece that describes life in a totalitarian state that demands blind obedience. The party controlled everything, the economy, daily life, and even the truth. In Orwell's 1984, quote, the heresy of heresies was common sense. And that's where we're headed towards today. Quote, even every record has been destroyed or falsified, every book rewritten, every picture has been repainted, every statue and street building has been renamed, every date has been altered. And the process is continuing day by day, minute by minute. History has stopped. Nothing exists except an endless present in which the party is always right. If you're ever caught committing a thought crime, dissenting from the party for even an instant, then, quote, your name was removed from the registers. Every record of everything you had ever done was wiped out, and your one-time existence was denied and then forgotten. Now he says, now our world obviously hasn't become quite as extreme as Orwell's dystopian vision, but big tech, big media, and big government certainly seem to be giving it its best effort. Yeah. And he talks about Trump and people being blasted off of Twitter. It's getting bad. It's getting bad. But he does have a some advice for people. Um, Sure, the party may give lip service to tolerance and unity as long as you fall in line. Otherwise, it's more rage than ridicule. They act like you're a crazy person because you have completely legitimate questions and concerns, whether about beer virus, lockdown, censorship, media misinformation, etc. It's extraordinary that after so much deliberate misinformation and bias, the media still expects people to take them seriously. CNN seems to believe that CNN seems to think that anyone who doubts their credibility is a conspiracy theorist. So for all the Winstons out there, the most important thing right now is to remain rational. I agree. As human beings, we tend to make terrible decisions when we're scared, sad, or angry. Have confidence in knowing that you have much more control of your own life and livelihood and the future that they want in the future and the future than they want you to believe. But you absolutely will have to make some deliberate and potentially difficult decisions. For example, if you're fed up with big tech, you can de-Google your life. No one is holding a gun to your head to have a Facebook account or use Gmail. There are plenty of other options out there that we'll discuss in future letters. More importantly, you might find your hometown isn't safe anymore, especially if you live in a big city. And it goes on and on. It's just, you'll have to reconsider your whole life to get rid of these people. And it makes sense. It's what I said, start boycotting these guys. Don't give them your money if you can help it. Now, you're going to obviously have to give them some of your money. You can't just jump to being a hermit right away. I'm not suggesting you should eventually be a hermit, but, you may just have to find alternative means to support yourself, to live your life. It's a big change, but hey, they've destroyed TV and movies. They've destroyed just about everything worth doing. So you got plenty of time on your hands to rebuild society apart from these people. And speaking of which, here's a third thing. There was a great comic back in, I guess, the 90s it came out. It was Martha Washington Goes to War by Frank Miller, and you should totally read it because it's a lot like kind of what's happening, although it's a little more war-based because, it's about a character named Martha Washington. She has no relation, but and the idea in Martha Washington was all the competent people were slowly leaving society because of stuff like this. They had become overly woke. I mean, wokeness was definitely a theme in it. It wasn't called wokeness back then. And they just, they would, all of society was becoming dysfunctional. And the people who could fix things, who were intellectually honest and smart, they fled. They left and let society collapse. And they were planning on they built sort of their own deal. And it takes place in the future, so it was a little futuristic. And they were just waiting for the rest of the society to collapse, and then we were going to go in and start it all over. And that's kind of what happens. Unfortunately, we're in that cycle. Unfortunately, we're in the downslide. I wish I had done more. Yeah, I really do. I wish I had done more when I was younger, had I saw this. But unfortunately, I'm part of the problem. I didn't see it coming. I wasn't as entitled as some of the kids coming up now, but I certainly thought, we only had to go up, up, up. That's a problem with being growing up at sort of the peak of your country or civilization. I was born in '66, grew up in the '70s and '80s, and that was kind of the peak, and we didn't know. We thought it would just go on and on and on. And then in the 90s, things went down, but then came up. But it's kind of like a graph of the odds of blackjack. Like you win and then you go down. You win some more, but you never win as much as you did. Then you go down again. Then you win, but you're not even back to where you were. And then you go down, and it just keeps going like that. So that's kind of where we are right now in the graph. We're probably on the third bump. Trump was taking us kind of back to where we were. We were almost there, and maybe we could have kept going up. But it's not going to work that way right now. And maybe in 4 years it'll go back up again, but not quite enough because they're going to do a lot of damage. But who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Maybe they won't do that much damage. But, you know, you got to take care of yourself. And, you know, you can't just give up. As it says here, we have never had more control over our own private data, livelihood, and environment, as long as you have the willingness to take action. So take action today. You know, start with your computer and start, you know, decoupling from these yahoos. And I think you'll find, you know, I unplugged from TV and I really don't miss it. I've got more time. I used to sit around every Sunday and just veg out in front of the TV, and yeah, I kind of miss that, but I could always veg out on something else. And now I get things done on Sunday. So keep it going, fans. I'm gonna go take care of Doggy's bed. Hopefully it's dry now out of the washing machine, and we'll see you in the next video.